Welcome everyone to week number 2 of our 2019 summer boot camp. Today's topic is streamlining your inspections. Just a quick background for those of you joining us, we have both customers and prospects alike joining us for these educational webinars this summer. So for those of you that are existing emergency reporting users, some of the introductory information will be familiar to you. But I want to make sure that those people that are considering joining the emergency reporting family get a chance to know a little bit who we are, and we'll get started on this new series that we're doing this summer. Participation has been absolutely fantastic, so I'm grateful to nearly 50 of you that are with us right now, and more are popping on as we speak. So thanks for taking time out of your day to join us. If there's any audio or video issues, just send a question to me saying, hey Tom, I can't hear you, or there's any video issues. I just want to make sure everything's good on my end. I'm coming to you this week from a hotel in Rhode Island. I'll be visiting some of our customers over the next few days, and wanted to make sure I've got good connectivity. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, here's what we're going to cover today. I'm going to give you a brief introduction, go over our objective, and each of these bootcamp weekly sessions are going to have one overarching objective that we want to focus on, and then how emergency reporting can help you solve that. So the objective is applicable to just about any department out there. It's not necessarily system specific as far as emergency reporting. It's something that all or most departments should be doing. And then we're going to get into how emergency reporting can help you solve that. We're going to do a quick background for those of you brand new to the emergency reporting family or considering joining us. Just a little background on who we are, jump into the system features, and then we're going to talk about occupancy inspections and how you can do it more efficiently in your organization. I do know, looking at the attendee list, that we have a longtime friend of emergency reporting and an absolute power user when it comes to the occupancy module, and that's Roger Parker, formerly of Avondale, Arizona, now with Elk Creek, Colorado. And he's been a longtime advocate of emergency reporting, and we may unmute his mic later today and have him chime in with some of his solutions, because he just does an exceptional job in this particular part of emergency reporting. So Roger, glad to have you with us today. And I believe from our team also, we have Andrea Hayes. She is our Director of Marketing. I think she's just joined us. So Andrea, thanks for jumping on. And that's me. I'm Tom Lewis, Business Development Analyst with Emergency Reporting, 22 years on the fire service in Southern Arizona, retired in 2013. I've been with Emergency Reporting since 2011, actually using the system since 2003, 2004, so I've seen a ton of changes, most of them happening in the past couple of years, tremendous changes. I think more has changed in our system in the last probably 2 to 3 years than did in the first decade that I used it. That's how rapidly we're growing and making changes to the system. So it's exciting times. And I'm now privileged to be the Business Development Analyst, where I support our sales team as a subject matter expert, and just having an absolute blast. I'm very blessed to have 2 really great careers, 22 years in the fire service, and now supporting the worldwide fire service with emergency reporting. So, all right, here's what we're going to do. So, not yet. Let's go back one. There we go. So, how can I streamline my agency's critical community risk reduction responsibility of occupancy inspections that better adheres to NFPA 1730 and NFPA 1300? And as you, if you had joined us last week for the boot camp, the week 1 of our boot camp, I'd like to keep this objective simple so we stay focused throughout this hour, and something that involves a national standard or some code set that departments, all of us, are typically striving to follow one or more of these NFPA codes, or standards, excuse me, and we know how difficult that can be for some, both from a budget perspective, a resource perspective, on personnel. And so we try to provide a tool that will allow you to be as effective as possible. So you can be in a big city department, or you can be in a small department with 2 or 3 people, or even 1 person in your prevention team, and still be very effective in improving the overall safety of your community. So for those of you brand new to emergency reporting, we currently have well over 460,000 personnel in our system. Of those, 165,000 actually have unique user logins. We serve over 6,600 departments worldwide. I think we're creeping up on 6,800 now. We follow, those of you new to the software business, as I was a few years ago, we develop software on what's called the Agile process. And you can look, if you look and do a Google search for Agile software development, you can see all of the specific details involved. But in a nutshell, software is never really finished. But good companies always making improvements to it. And those improvements on our end are released every 2 weeks, whether it is new minor features, major updates, or just simply system fixes. That's ongoing every 2 weeks. A good way to know if the software you're using is on an Agile process is that those 2 weeks we call a sprint. If you notice on your mobile devices, there usually comes a surge of, and if you don't have it set to automatically update, I know on mine I don't. So every couple weeks, all of a sudden I have like 10 updates for my apps on my phone. And then there's quiet for a couple weeks and then another surge. That tells me that these companies are on a Agile software development process, and they're making changes over those 2-3 week sprints and then releasing them into the product. And so with our system, because we're software as a service, you do not install anything on your device other than InspectER, which we'll talk later, but the main system is a web application. Whenever you log in, you're always using the latest version. And so there's no worry about updates, installations, and things like that. We have a 99.99% uptime and reliability, which is critical. So let's take away one of these zeros, or one of these nines, excuse me. If we had 3 nines and 99.9% uptime, that means we are down only, and we never are down this long, but if we had a 99.9% uptime, that's 8.76 hours out of 8,760 hours out of an entire year. And so we had that extra 9, and so then converting it to minutes, that's even 10% better than the 8 hours of downtime. And I like to look at it as we're up 8,752 plus hours a year out of 8,760 hours. So incredibly reliable and secure. 24/7 US-based support, which means priority 1 tickets are 24/7. Priority 2 and 3 tickets for things that aren't necessarily super mission critical, like the system's down or the CAD interface is down. Those, we have our amazing support team that's based in Bellingham, Washington, that is able to answer support tickets from 0600 basically to 1800 every day. We do our very best to support agency compliance with a myriad of standards out there, such as 1300, 1500, 1710, and we'll be talking a little bit about 1300 today. We currently serve the entire United States Marine Corps and the entire United States Army. And we also have a robust partner community. So you see our 4 pillars over there on the right. And so we look for helping you comply with organizational standards, both internally and national and or regional. Support your entire operations from prevention to public education to incidents to fleet management. Relationships, really, that's my favorite one, is it all comes down to the human beings behind all of it. And so that really, to me, is the core of what we do to differentiate ourselves from the competition, is our support, our training, the interaction that you have with our sales team and our people, I think is one of the key elements that sets us apart, in addition to being a great product. And then, of course, data is the foundation of all of it, because we're helping you manage your data. And so that platform is emergency reporting, but we have multiple partners that supply data through scheduling interfaces to help support our daily roster. And so data either is fed to or pulled from our APIs, our very robust and ever-growing API. Gotta get him in talk here, sorry guys. Our robust API program that allows other software vendors to send and receive data through our system, and it works absolutely fantastically because we can be that platform, but we need to rely on the Cadillacs of other parts of the industry to help partner with us to make that experience great for everybody. So that's a little background on us. And without further ado, let's jump right into the topic at hand. Let me just pause for a second as I do see a question coming in. Chief McGarvey, he's with us. So from Pennsylvania, Lower Merion. Chief, I'll get to your question here momentarily. So thank you. All right, system features, 16 modules. The partner interfaces, which I mentioned earlier, a really solid CAD interface, and we love having the ability to have incidents push from your CAD to populate our incidents module. The key there is it just reduces error and a lot of extra data entry by the guys in the field. I had to do this in my department from 2003-ish to 2000 and I think 8 or 9 when we got our CAD interface finally, and it was a godsend for sure. Over 600 system reports, 1710, 1720 analytics, and NFPA 1500 analytics. And we're looking to bring out a new business intelligence tool in the coming months that will be even more powerful and make the system even more great for those that need to extract data out of the system. All right. Inspect ER, I'm going to show you this. This is our standalone app that allows you to conduct inspections in the field offline if needed. So if internet connectivity is an issue in your jurisdiction, this app will prove helpful. And the reason I bring it up here today is that it's part of the topic that we're going to cover, and it's a potential solution for you. It is not mandatory that you have Inspect ER to conduct inspections, because you can do it via the web app as long as you have internet connectivity. The key here is that we've got an app that is designed for the mobile device, tablets in particular, for iOS, Android, and Windows, and it gives you that offline capability. Other than that, it functions with a slightly different appearance for being a mobile device, but functionally it's the same as the web app. All right, so the two standards that's going to be relevant to what we're going to be talking about today is NFPA 1730, the standard on organization and development of fire prevention inspection and code enforcement, plan review, investigation, and public education operations. A pretty big deal, this particular standard. And the elements that in our time together that we're going to focus on is right here under community risk assessment. So if you take a look at what I've highlighted, we've got that a community risk assessment should include or shall include the following profiles to describe the community. And our occupancy module will help you with all of these: demographics, geographical overview, building stock, fire experience, responses, hazards, and economic profile. And I'll show you how this all comes together within the system. So it's a comprehensive document. We would never be able to cover even more than this in an hour, but you can view it on NFPA's website for free. Now, to download it, you have to be a member and it costs and all that. But I strongly recommend that even if you just need to peruse this document, to do so to get an idea of what a community risk assessment program should entail. Under Chapter 7, we've got these elements. And so these 9 elements are things that you can capture within our system to help you comply right out of the gate with this particular standard. So the initial fire protection environmental impact, that feasibility study can be uploaded, now not done in our system necessarily, but once you have completed it, can be tied to that occupancy and stored with it in the Files tab. Water supply and fire flow, emergency vehicle access, construction building plans related to fire protection features, and I'll show you how that comes into play in the system. COOs, hazardous materials and processes, fire protection systems, fire and life safety systems, field acceptance inspections, and then of course the issuance of a COO. Another key NFPA standard is NFPA 1300. This is the standard on community risk assessment and developing that plan. And so here, again, supplementing 1730, one of the elements out of Chapter 5 is that the community risk assessment shall include but not be limited to the following. And these are the ones that, again, echoing back to the previous slide, are the key elements that we can capture. The other elements are also capturable within our system, but those that are highlighted there, those 5, are particular to the occupancy module itself. All right, let's get into the system. Enough PowerPoint. Okay, so now that we are in the system, I wanted to give you a quick tour of what this occupancy module is all about. And I'm here to answer questions as we go through this, and to show you how you can take advantage of adhering to those elements we talked about with those 2 NFPA standards. All right, so we're going to navigate over to the occupancy module, and I've got a couple accounts here. I've got one that's my demo account, and then I also have one that Fire Marshal Parker has also done that encompasses Las Vegas. So we'll bounce between the 2 of those. But essentially the lay of the land here is the grid of all of your occupancies within your jurisdiction that you're responsible for responding to or conducting inspections on. It is organized by you. This essentially, as a brand new customer, this is a blank slate. And in the settings is where we start to build the foundation for making this a great module. The first area, and because we're not going to go into every single element here, I just want to show you the primary elements for success here. And the first one is your occupancy categories and subcategories. This is an example of a little bit of a messy one. Let me show you an example of one that is much cleaner. You've got opportunities to build this as you see fit by the fire code categories and subcategories, your A's and your B's, your industrials, institutional, and so forth. Okay. Another option to consider is this. And you've got options here. It's going to be dependent on your organization. This is broken down by zones or census tracts. All right. So you've got a couple options here. We have available, and I will get this loaded up to the files tab here later, the handouts tab. I want to show you the templates that we have, some best practices, so you can get an idea of what we share with our customers as far as organizing this as a foundation that you can start with. So we're going to go and talk about imports here in a little bit, but here in the occupancy, we've got some best practices, and here's a detailed list that I want to show you just to give you an idea. And this will look familiar to one of our participants today. So you've got a category on the left, and you've got the subcategory here on the right. And so it's up to you how you want to organize it. I'm just kind of giving you some illustrations here on how you can do it. You can be as granular as getting into the A1s down to A3s and so forth. And then on the businesses, you can do the same thing, but actually get more descriptive. And in parentheses, this is the actual NFPA's property use code. And so anytime you're going to add an occupancy, this allows for consistency in entering the property use type for that particular occupancy. So I know that if I'm doing a nightclub, entering a nightclub into my system, and it's an alpha 2, I need to pick a 162 for the NFPA type. And again, it's for consistency and quality of data. And I'm happy to share this document with you. Some choose to do census blocks here. There's not a right or wrong way. It's what's going to be best for your organization. And this is an example of a demo account that usually gets a little messy, and you can see that this is a little messy, but the concept is certainly there. The other elements when it comes to setting this up to keep in mind is there's different drop downs that appear within the occupancy module, including fire protection systems, your inspection results, inspection question observation values, and the creation of inspection forms. You get to build this module as you see fit for your agency. And so a lot of what we recommend is think about your processes now, especially the forms, because within the forms themselves, You can create your own forms from scratch, but keep in mind that forms can be shared through agency friends. So if you like a form from another emergency reporting user in your state, you can actually share that form with them through agency friends, kind of like Facebook friends. And you can see here, we're friends with the sales team account. And so they've created all of these forms, and it allows you to use these forms as templates for your own forms. So you can't edit their forms. They're just sharing it with you, so you don't have to do that extra legwork, and I should say not legwork, handwork in typing in everything again. So we're good in the fire service on these three things. We're good at pilfering, plagiarizing, and perfecting. And so let's share it. And so we give you that ability to do that. So that's the sales team account. I think I've got at least one more in here, maybe, and then our test accounts and things like that. So certainly someone, especially if you're not currently using emergency reporting, but someone in your region is, chances are they've created some pretty great inspection forms that can be shared. And will probably meet the local codes as well. One other thing, especially for those of you that are currently using emergency reporting for inspections, this is critical. People often keep this really limited to pass and fail, and in fact, this is a pretty limited set here. This also drives what is printed in the inspection form. You can select one or more of these to deliver to the customer. If I were to select all of these and I have a 9-page inspection form, that's what the customer is going to get. I just want them to correct what was a violation. I can select just the violation responses to print, and now I'm down to a 1 or 2-page report. That's one example. I think I may have an even better one here that I want to show you. So don't limit yourself to pass fail, because then you limit what you can share with the customer. This one's much better. Code violation from previous inspection, move to new inspection. One that I always like to recommend, that I'm corrected during inspection, corrected during re-inspection. So you have more comprehensive documentation of what actually occurred with that particular issue during the inspection, and can be printed. And don't forget too, in our reports, you can then extract how frequently these occurrences are happening within your jurisdiction. So be sure to build that out sufficiently to meet your organization's needs. And it may give you even more flexibility if you're used to paper forms up to now, to expand that from just a 1 or 2 or 3 inspection observations. And when I say inspection observations, what that means is on an inspection form, this is the response to the individual question on that inspection form. And it'll make sense when I show you what that looks like here in a little bit. Those are the key elements here. We're not going to get into permitting today, but our module supports all of that. The other ones that you see here are also drop downs. So keep in mind, you'll start out with maybe some basic ones that come with your account, but I highly recommend getting in here and configuring and spending time here. It's not glamorous, but boy, on the back end, when you're using this, it's going to make the use of the occupancy module much more effective for your organization. All right, let's get back to, again, adhering to some of those things we saw with those 2 standards, 1730 and 1300. So we're going to take this particular occupancy, the Bellagio. We've all seen the fountain pictures of it, so it's a somewhat familiar occupancy to us. And this was built by our friend Roger. And these elements you see here are the core elements of the occupancy itself, but you can see it's encompassing some of the elements that were mentioned back in 1730 and 1300, just right here on the initial info page. Now, a couple things to take a look at here. You can assign a building to an inspector and be able to extract reports and assign projects to that particular inspector and be able to quickly see it on the main grid. You'll notice the property use that is tied in with NFPA. Now the property use code, if you don't have the luxury of a CAD interface, you can fill an address in our incidents module by filling from this occupancy, and it will automatically populate this property use code as well. So that's a key element of not only having it here within the occupancy, but also helping you having it supported in the address page basic 3 of an incident report. The map. So here with the Google Maps interface that we have, I can show you this building on a map. We have both the map and satellite view. And one key thing to keep in mind is it's going to park that in the middle of the parcel for an occupancy. But if I needed to have a master tenant relationship with, if I wanted to break this large structure into floors and or wings, I could do a master tenant relationship with our system. And then of course I can move this parked spot on, but if I needed to move that, I could move it and it would update my lat and long as well. That's the basic info page. The master tenant relationship, you can turn this on in your account, and what this enables you to do is it gives you the ability to have one master occupancy, typically found in like strip malls, where you have one large building that's parceled out into sub-occupancies, sub-tenants, and you can have the one master that encompasses all of the fire protection systems for that one building, and then you could populate in the tenant occupancies. When you create a tenant, you can have it auto-populate from the master anything that you check here. Okay. Let's move on to the contacts. So a key element here is adding all of the contacts. And when you add a new contact, keep in mind the following. It's up to you on the contact types. This is, you create this drop-down list. It can be as short or as long as you need it to be, but this is extremely helpful not only for the inspectors out in the field, but for also the crews in the event that they encounter something either on an incident or doing an engine company survey or pre-plan, that they can then make contact with those people within the organization to help them answer a question, solve a problem or whatnot, and it's all in one location, one source of truth for that building. Now, one of the things that I didn't mention earlier is most of you have jurisdictions where you have hundreds, if not thousands, and we're talking 10,000 and up occupancies in your organization. Those of you considering coming to emergency reporting, we can import those occupancies. So if you're on another RMS or you have a database from the assessor's office of your occupancies, those can be batch imported using our occupancy templates. And not only can you import a lot of information from the info tab, we're also going to be able to import for the PreFire Plans tab, okay? And you can also import contacts. So if there is a current existing list of contacts for your structures within your jurisdiction, those too can be imported. So on the front end, especially if you're new to emergency reporting, it makes the job of getting the information into the system much faster and typically more accurately as well. So keep that in mind. And those of you that are longtime users of emergency reporting, if you have a new subdivision going in or a new mall or a new complex, the university is building a set of buildings, you don't have to manually enter those. You can bring them in as a batch as well. Or if you simply want to update existing occupancy information, because back here on the info tab, we can re-import and it will update based on the occupancy ID number. So if it sees that occupancy 3600 is already there, it will ask, do you wish to overwrite the data? And you certainly can, and then update that information in a batch format for multiple occupancies. I'm going to take a quick pause, see if we've got any questions. All right, Chief McGarvey, I haven't forgotten yours. Don't worry about that. If need be too, I may contact you offline on that one regarding 1720. Okay, looking good so far. All right, back to the presentation. I'm going to come back to inspections. PreFire Plans tab. This is a key data page for the crews responding to the structure. Now you can see this hasn't been filled in because again, that was a demo account, but I can show you one that has some information for you. In this grid, what's nice is on this grid, you can quickly find buildings simply by sorting or filtering by any one of these elements that you see here. So the Archer Ale House is always giving us trouble. And on their PreFire Plans tab, you can see the data elements that are here. Now, this is supplemented by the Files tab, where you can load pre-plans. And an example of a pre-plan that I always found to be really effective, especially for field use, is from our friends at Pasco, Washington. They created, using no fancy program whatsoever, just Excel, and so it's been converted into a PDF, an overhead shot, icons that they can drag and drop onto the image, notes, and again, these notes are probably pulled directly from the PreFire Plan tab here, and then they upload this into that occupancy information. So if I need to respond to this cinema, I've got all the essential information that I need here. From an incident command perspective, about the only thing I think is missing is maybe the internal walls, especially any load-bearing walls and such. But other than that, this is an extremely helpful document and an example of the best practice. That's stored in the files. Again, those of you that know emergency reporting know that you can store as many files as you want here, up to about 25 megs in size. Those of you considering us, this is a great repository for images of that occupancy, both for PreFire Plans, and then I have seen some great examples of during inspections, things that they found, unique hazards, hydrant location, things like that, and actual images that can be stored here as well. Looks like we got a question. This is from Wayne. Wayne, is Pasco willing to share that Excel template? Not only are they willing to share it, they have shared it with me, both in the PDF and Excel format, and I will get that to you. And in fact, what we can do is, once I wrap up the presentation before everybody leaves, I can load that Excel file that they've given me, because they've granted me permission to share, otherwise I wouldn't have even showed it. I always ask beforehand. I'll load that into the handouts before we wrap up today. I was coming off of another presentation, so I didn't get a chance to load my handouts earlier, so I apologize for that. Okay, like I said, we're going to come back to inspections. Any other questions on the PreFire Plans tab and the Files tab? They go hand in hand with one another. When you have all this data in place, all right, we're going to do the chemicals here in a minute, but since I'm on this train of thought, we'll go over here real quick. One thing I want to show you is the ability to print. All right, so it can be saved as a PDF, can be used as a cross-check reference when you're out there doing a engine company survey or an inspection for community risk reduction. But I can print and select what I want to print. So if I just want to see the PreFire plan and the images, I can select that, not check all. And it's going to deliver a nice PDF in a gridded format with all of the occupancy information, and you can see anything missing can be my cue to go in and capture that information on a subsequent inspection. The PreFire Plan tab, chemical inventory, which I'm going to jump into next, and then any files that are attached. Chemicals. So a key element here for the chemicals is the ability for you to store the chemical data on premise, where it's at in the building, how much of it is there, how it's stored, estimated capacity, and the unit of measurement for that particular chemical. And we were just playing here, so we didn't fill everything in. And then any subsequent notes that you'd like. So if there's any hazmat techs in the room, I went through hazmat tech school, and one thing they always explained to us was that when you get on scene, hazmat scenes are always hurry up and wait incidents for sure. But they always taught us that you had to have 3 sources of information when researching a chemical. We provide you one right out of the gate without having to grab all the manuals. we link you directly to Cameo and to the chemical that was on the grid, your 704, CAS number, DOT hazard label information, your hazards, and a quick link to an ERG. So with just a few clicks, you've got a lot of information about a chemical right when you get on scene. And so the incident commander sitting in this truck or in the command van can go in and quickly research it. Say, well, we're showing that we've got chlorine on this premise and it's in this part of the building, and oh, by the way, fire is getting close to that part of the building. We need to kind of prepare for maybe some different kind of actions. Gonna pause here for question. Yeah, so Wayne, the 25 megabyte limit is a per file limit. So you can have hundreds of files, but the cap on the file size is 25 meg. And anytime that might exceed that megabyte limit, the 25 meg limit, we have an opportunity in some parts of the system to just put a link so then it can be stored elsewhere in the link and quickly link to it. Hope that makes sense for you. So unlimited storage, just each file size has a limit. Jonathan saying, hey, I was on a run while at work currently. Is there any work on the more streamlined sharing of the info from Streetwise and ER? We're trying not to duplicate our work is kind of what I'm saying. I'm doing a pre-plan in Streetwise and then doing it in ER as well. So there is an interface between Streetwise and emergency reporting, and I need to get up to speed on exactly what is shared there, but there's a lot of things that are shared. I just need to get confirmation on what is pushed versus what is pooled. And so in other words, what they give us versus what they grab from us. So we can follow up with you on that, Jonathan, okay? And Wayne says, hey, you're making me happier than the time I was named runner-up at Walmart Creator of the Month. Oh, we love customers and prospects that come to us like this. That's awesome, Wayne. Yeah, Jonathan, we'll follow. I'm going to make a note to follow up with you on the Streetwise question because I want to give you all the right information there. All right, pressing on. Fire protection systems. So again, remember that was one of the elements, the bullet points in those standards we talked about earlier. So here, our system will show you the 10 closest hydrants right out of the gate. Again, these are importable. So those of you considering coming over to us, you don't have to manually enter each hydrant one at a time. That would be very tedious. Chances are your water company, or you may currently have it in your current RMS, the whole data set of your hydrants in your jurisdiction, including the lat long, which is critical. Addresses won't work here. That's not enough. You need the lat long. Addresses will get you in the ballpark, but as we know, hydrants aren't in the middle of structures. They are near structures, and there are multiple ones. And so by having the lat long, it will actually show you those 10 closest hydrants based on lat long, which is extremely helpful for management, especially if I come to this grid and I notice half my hydrants are out of service for whatever reason. That's going to be a problem for water supply on an incident. But then looking down here, I can enter fire department connections, sprinkler room location, water supply information. I can also add new systems here. Again, this is done back in the settings of the occupancy module. We give you the folders to put them in. These here in bold, and then you add the specific systems that are now in orange text hyperlink, but not bold. And so you build your fire protection systems into the system. This is super funny because it caught me the first time. We have customers go, I'm clicking and it's not doing anything. I don't get that. It won't add it. These bold-faced headings are just the categories. Think of them as the folders that hold the suppression system. So in order for it to populate, I have to pick one of those to fill it. In service, manufacturer, cert date and notes. We'll click save. And again, it would appear here. Now I'd be more comprehensive in putting more detail in, but I wanted to just show you how that populates. So your suppression systems can appear here without a problem. And again, one of the things that we pride ourselves on in emergency reporting is that you can put in all of this information, and that's great, but I need to be able to extract it. So this is good. This is a way to view it and get the data out. but when it comes to fire protection systems, I want a little bit more. So I can go here into my reports section for occupancy. And so remember I had mentioned earlier in the presentation, we have well over 600 reports in our system. This is just the ones that pertain to the occupancy module. And we also have ones that pertain specifically to, and there's a lot of them, okay? We have ones that pertain specifically to fire protection systems. And instead of scrolling through the whole list, we're just gonna do a keyword search, and you can see that I have 6 matches: occupancies with square footage inspector and fire protection system. All right, and as I scroll through, I've got expired fire protection systems there, and then these 4 other reports as well that pertain to fire protection systems, all pulling data from this section here. And whenever I was teaching, I would always ask the question, how many of you know about Control F when you're in a web browser? This is not ER specific. This is anytime you're on a page that's text intensive and you're looking for a keyword or phrase, hit Control F on a Windows machine, or preferably on a Mac, Command F, and you'll pull up the search field for that web page, and you just type in the word you're looking for or words, and it will tell you how many there are, and then you can even highlight them and find them very quickly. So I imagine some of you may already have known this because you're here because you know technology, but most of the time there's always somebody that didn't know it. So hopefully you're one of those and now have a nice tool in your toolbox for managing and finding things faster on a web page. All right, we're down to about, time flies when you're having fun, we're down to less than 20 minutes. So I want to hit some of these other tabs and especially come back to the inspection. Permits. You have the ability to issue permits for occupancies. And again, just like the rest of the occupancy module, fully 100% configurable by you. In the permits module of this permits section of the occupancy module, you get to create a permit. This drop-down is built by you. The forms, just like inspections, are created by you. You can set the permit date, when it takes effect, how long it takes effect. If there's any payment involved, the site info might be different than the billing info, but if it's the same, I don't want to type it again, we're just going to fill it. Point of contact, and then once I click save, one of the nice things about the permits is that I can add line items based on the type of permit, and again, any kind of inspection fees that are associated with the permit, and I can also assign a quantity. So especially if it's driven by square footage or building size, you can create those line items and add quantities and tie that all together here within these line items. I go to the next page. This is like an inspection form, but it's my permit form. And again, a very unglamorous test form. And we have quick picks here. So instead of having to open up the form or the observation here, I can just answer it, but I have the option to go in and add notes and add attachments as well. Images, other documents that they may need to fill out can be loaded here as well without a problem. And we can go in and grab signatures as well. All right, that's permits. I want to just give you a quick two-minute tutorial on that one. Here's where we're getting into the nitty-gritty of 1730. This is our vision product. It's under the hazards tab, and what it does is it allows you to enter data points including property value, life safety, and overall risks, and score this building, color code that building on the map, which I'll show you here in a minute, and help you ascertain the risks in your community, and to see where you might want to deploy response resources, where you might want to deploy prevention resources, and or concentrate your education efforts within your community. And so by answering all of these, and they all have to be answered, you'll notice they're all red here, you will get a score. The higher the number, the greater the risk to both crews and the community were there to be an event at that particular structure. This is based, some of you that have been around a while may remember the old United States Fire Administration RAVE program, that this is based on that. It then kind of changed hands from FEMA, the Fire Administration, to CIPSE, the Center for Public Safety Excellence, and then we work with them to then acquire the proprietary information for our vision product. And so this is a key element for helping you score those buildings. And I'm going to go back to that after I hit inspections, but this is one part of what you can complete during an inspection. It is not an inspection form. It will supplement that inspection and give you another element, another data element about that building as far as contributing to your community risk assessment plan as defined in NFPA 1730. All right. Actions tab, very quickly, is think of this as your electronic paper trail for that building. So it's not necessarily when you did inspections, no, because that's all documented here, not when you issued permits, but when you do a plans review intake, when you've made phone calls, sent emails, if you want to tie all activity that doesn't apply, that doesn't get filled in here in the other tabs, you can document it here and have a nice documentation of anything that has taken place with any given building. Some customers choose to really take advantage of this. Others, this is not used as much, but I want to show it to you as an underutilized tool in our system, because not only are you putting information here in, you can extract information out as well in the reports. As an example, I've got 3 reports here that pull directly from that particular tab in the occupancy module. So if your firefighters haven't already asked you this, they will ask you this, because that's how we are as firefighters. So Captain, so Chief, why am I putting this information in? So going into our report section allows you to answer that question a little more effectively. Well, the why is because we want to capture this information so we can see what we're doing with this building by way of inspections, typical actions, permitting and such. And so being able to answer the why effectively is, I think, something emergency reporting helps support leadership with in organizations, because the good stuff going into the system in the form of data, we yield some very good information coming out to help decision makers make those good decisions, both for, and I like this comes from the retired Army chief, talks about being able to secure manning, machines, and money for your organization, because in the end it does come down to all of that for your organization. So I'm going to save what I would consider the best for last here, and then we'll answer the pending questions that have come up. Inspections. So here's one for that you can see a lot of test inspections have taken place here. But what I want to show you is when you go to conduct an inspection, and you can set an inspection schedule as well. You can see down here we've got some past due inspections. So a routine inspection was due on the 24th yesterday. Let's go start an inspection real quick. And what I'm doing is I'm selecting the inspection type, again, built by you, the customer, forms built by you, the customer, contacts, pulling from this tab. And then I go ahead and start my inspection. So here in the inspection itself, these were built by me, or in your case, you, these categories and observations. The workflow, again, talking about streamlining, right? That's the topic of today's boot camp. I'm going to check all. I'm going to do a bulk operation. I'm going to set everything to pass. That's right out of the gate, because chances are most things will pass on an inspection. However, as I go through the inspection itself, there's going to be things that will fail. So for example, we've got a lot of storage underneath the exit stairs. I'm going to change that observation value. I'm going to say they corrected it during the initial inspection. All right. Okay, I can take a picture of it. Now functionally, this is even faster on a tablet because, and I'll show you with Inspect DR how that works here in a minute, but this is functionally faster because I don't have to go find the file. I can actually just take a picture with the camera and then load it immediately into this particular observation. So I'm just going to put in downloads. Just want to find a quick image. Here we go. We'll do a quick upload. And I probably picked a large file, so we'll wait here and I'll get Inspect DR fired up on my tablet to be able to share with you here. Okay, so the file's there. We click save, and then now it's tied to that inspection. As I go through, I continually find something else that we've got extension cords used as wiring. That's a violation that they didn't correct on the spot. Remember, these are driven by you. You create these. We'll click save. Again, I would take a picture of it, of course. But for time, we want to blaze through this. I'm going to click next. I'm going to finish up that inspection. If I have any billable amounts, I can also add those. This inspection failed. And we're going to click next. And I can send an email of the results to the recipient. All right, and I can send it to multiple ones if I need to. Now, if there was an email associated with that contact, it will automatically fill from the dropdown. I can add another one if I need to. So a lot of our customers need to send one maybe back to their home office or to a billing company. You can send that, no problem. This came from me. Now, here's where those observations come into play. If I were to select everything, I'm getting this massive report. Not so helpful when it comes to delivering good customer service. And it's a big one, so it's going to load here. And then I'm also, let's see, there it is. So this is a 6-page document. Your logo will be here. All the other information for it will auto-populate. But what I really care about is I just want them to see what's corrected during the inspection and what's a current violation. So now when I preview it, I should have about a 2-page report. Now I'm doing this quickly so we can get through because we don't have that much time left together. But my signatures will appear here had I done the electronic signature capture. And now I've got a nice 2-page report to send to the customer. Password goes in here. Signatures are captured here. Let me just do that real quick to show you. Like I said, time flies when you're having fun. Almost to the end here. Representative signature. It also asks for contact name, and because I use that contact, I can click once and it will autofill. Signatures captured. And put in my password. And we are good to go. Now keep in mind here, because there were failed items, when I do a follow-up inspection, it's going to start a brand new follow-up inspection. So I go back 30, 60 days later. The forms are already set for me, and all the previous violations, oops, well, let me get past it so I get the required fields. That old form is there, but now you can go in and change this to corrected during reinspection. Whoops, cleared on second inspection. Take a new picture, so you've got a before and after picture, and you're good to go. All right, before we close out, I need to show you 2 things. So stick with me even if we go past the top of the hour a little bit, because I want to make sure I answer questions, because there's been quite a few that have come in. So we'll do the last 2 topics and then get to everyone's questions. So thanks guys for being patient. Okay, I'm going to go do our better map here in Vegas. Thank you, Roger. And I'm going to go here. I'm going to clear my filters. And I want to show you, this is going to show you the color coding of the occupancies based on their risk assessment score. Remember I had mentioned that earlier? And so what I need to do is zoom out. We were in Oregon for a little bit, and so I need to go take a little trip down to Vegas. And you can see these buildings are going to be color coded based on their risks. So here's a nice look on the strip. Super example. I know Roger and his team put a lot of work into making this a really nice demo account. And so we've got a few that are less than 80 but greater than 60, and so they're higher risk structures. Okay, but some nearby that aren't. And so if I look at this in total, I can kind of get a feel for, okay, where are the structures that cause me some concern and where I may want to concentrate more efforts in. So that's how Vision integrates with Google Maps to give you a picture for helping you with telling your story and complying with elements of 1730 and 1300. All right, hopefully this is going to work. I'm going to share my iPad so you can actually see Inspect DR. Get that connected. Okay, perfect. All right, so this is Inspect DR. And so you can see I've got it loaded up on my iPad, which is projecting here onto my laptop that you guys can see. And so what you're seeing, let me toggle off of that for a second because I'm in my demo account. This grid that you see here, so I'm going to keep that filtered as Archer, okay? Over here on the tablet, I'm going to type in Archer. And so while it looks slightly different, functionally it's the same grid. All right. And so I've got all of that information about the building, which I can also edit. And so for example, let's say we're going to correct this address and I'm out in the field and I want to correct it. I'm going to edit. Oops, stop. All right. And so we have a new address, right? So bear with me because I want to show you how this works. Both are connected to the internet right now, but I can do this offline. And then once I resynchronize, it will update the lat long even. All right, so I'm saving it in Inspect DR, and you'll notice that I've changed it from 851 Coho Way to 2200 Ringland Drive. This is emergency reporting's address. I'm gonna click Save. All right, so see how it used to be 851 Coho Drive? As soon as I click Refresh, the address is updated. Same thing applies for inspections, building data, inspections, as I mentioned earlier. So you can see all the completed inspections here. Hazmat, remember we were in chlorine earlier. And so functionally similar, well, not similar, identical. Appearance a little bit different with the added bonus of being able to do a lot of this, all of this, frankly, offline, especially if connectivity is a concern in your area. And this was designed for tablet devices, so it's very user-friendly in the field. So I did want to show you that. And with that, we're at the top of the hour, so timing's perfect as far as the content goes, but we need to answer questions. So those of you, if you don't mind sticking around for a few more minutes, I like to make sure I answer all these questions before we wrap up. Anything I can't answer as well as I would like, especially the Streetwise integration, we will get back with you on the Streetwise and my wingman. And you guys got to tell me who's on because you're showing just as marketing and business development. So Open up your mics, ER team, and tell me who's helping me out today.
I think it's just Michael and I right now, Tom.
Oh, fantastic. So, guys, that was Andrea. She's our director of marketing, does an absolutely amazing job for us. And her wingman in the office, Michael Anderson, produces a lot of the content that you see that comes to you via email on our marketing website and the things that we hand out at conferences. So they do some amazing work, and I'm very grateful for them to be here today to answer some of these questions. So hang tight. I know we're past the top of the hour, but I'm going to go through these questions. Some have already been answered by the team, and then I'll answer the rest. Let's see. When uploading pictures, this is from Chad. When uploading pictures into files, is it better to add files or individual photos? It's up to you. You can do both. But file, like was answered, photos are the best way to go, especially when we're talking about inspections. Sean's asking, and I've seen Sean on these webinars before, so thanks for joining again, Sean. Is there a plan to update nearest hydrant calculation to take into account roads rather than as the crow flies? Oh, that's an awesome question. So right now, what Sean is saying is that right now it is point to point for hydrants, the 10 closest hydrants to the occupancy. Right now, we don't have currently, not to say that we wouldn't in the future, but right now there are no immediate plans to have it as you would lay line, basically. In other words, like GPS directions. So even though it's showing the 10 closest hydrants, hydrant number 2 on the list might actually be closer as you would lay line because of a building in the way. So it still is incumbent to take a look at the map, but it's been our experience that when you're seeing those 10 closest hydrants, they are indeed almost always the 10 closest hydrants. They just might not be in order as you would access them or lay line, doing reverse or forward lays to those hydrants. So great question, Sean. No ETA on that. Not sure if we've got plans for it, but great question. And to answer Christopher's question, yes, it's as the crow flies, straight line as of now, point to point. Jonathan, we do residential burn permits for recreational files. We currently keep all the data in an Excel sheet. Is there a better way anyone is doing permits rather than creating an occupancy for every residence? Yeah, I'm going to tell you a shortcut on that one. What I would do is I would create, this one's I got to show you. So what I would do is this. You don't want to create, you want to create an occupancy placeholder. I don't know if I've done it in this one, but let me see. Maybe we'll get lucky here. Yeah, so we got a placeholder. What I would consider, and you may or may not like this, but give it a shot, put in a placeholder. Remember, you don't have to put numbers in, just hit all the required fields. And then when you issue permits, what you'll do is on the permit, you're going to replace the site and billing info with the actual address of that residence. And so then there'll be a stack within that placeholder occupancy with the correct address, both for site and or billing for that occupancy without having to create a brand new occupancy every time you issue a residential permit. Give that a shot. And if anybody else has an idea, just chime in right now. If you've got something better figured out, definitely let us know, and we'll share that with Jonathan. And Jay had that same question. I don't want a single family occupancy in the occupancy module. I wouldn't either. That could get cluttered fast, although some people do it. I think the solution I showed earlier may be pretty good. If you guys run into pitfalls with it, let me know. Or if someone else has another solution, please share it with us. Phone number being shared. So Chad's going to be talking with, I got your phone number here, Chad, so that's good. We'll contact you. May wish to let folks know, this is from Jeff, about the setting to flag auto-create follow-up inspections. We've been using ERR without knowing that. Oh, awesome point. All right. So again, guys, I know we're at 5 minutes past the hour, but I like to answer all the questions within the session as opposed to getting back to you later unless I have to. So if you need to go, completely understand. I want to thank you for joining us. This is week 2 of Emergency Reporting's Summer Boot Camp. where we address a key objective about fire department operations and then show how those problems, challenges can be solved in emergency reporting. And today was all about community risk reduction and taking advantage of the occupancy module to effectively adhere to elements of 1730 and 1300. So with that, if you got to go, completely understand, but I'm going to keep answering questions until we wrap up here. All right, what Jeff is saying, and because this wasn't a full-blown training video, but I'm so glad he mentioned this, is this. Check this out. A lot of people forget about this because it's not obvious. When you go into inspection results, you can make, and I took it for granted when I was talking about it, but within this, it's like, how do I know this? Okay, so we go in, and how would I know it otherwise? On the results of the inspection, so back in settings, the different results, you can choose that if the result of the overall inspection is a fail, a citation issued, or anything that would require a follow-up, you can check one. You don't have to check both of these. You check one of these boxes. One says you can allow a follow-up, and that orange hyperlink that says do follow-up inspection will appear every time this result happens. If I select this one, I cannot complete that inspection without scheduling a reinspection. That's the required part of it. So I want to thank Jeff for that, because this is very easily overlooked. And once we show it to people, then they're like, oh, that's awesome, because I want to be able to integrate that follow-up inspection without having to find out, oh, what happened on the previous inspection. This allows you to link the previous inspection to a follow-up inspection, and this is where you toggle that availability. So if an inspection were pass, you're probably never going to do a follow-up on it, where you're going to need the previous inspection's result for a future inspection, so you wouldn't check either of these. But anytime that you may need to go back to that building, citation issued, correction notice issued, you're going to want to make sure you check one or the other, not both, one or the other boxes here. Great point. Thank you, Jeff. All right. We're almost done with the questions. All right. Auto-filled inspection signature, inspector signature, our team's already answered that. That is correct. There is no autofill, like you capture a signature or like it's a file of your signature that you just load into it. I've heard that before, but we don't currently have it. You still have to move your finger across the device to grab a signature. How do you make entries for vacant buildings within the occupancy module? For instance, if a building was occupied as one business, closed for some time, then reopened as a new business. Let me show you that one. Practice on that goes like this. Move the questions out of the way. In the occupancy list itself, okay, we've got all these test occupancies. So all you do is you go into, say, Chevron Nevada City, and it's vacant for, come on, it's vacant for a time. You can actually archive this occupancy. And you have to be able to type. Name, call it vacant, click save. And now some of the data elements are preserved, but it's now a vacant structure. And then when it's a new building, you can archive it once again. And now you've got the new Chevron. The good news is, under advanced search, you can see archived occupancies. And there's my old Chevron. And if I need to pull down the data from when it was the old Chevron, all I have to do is click unarchive, and I'm good to go. All of its historical records are preserved and can be grabbed again. Awesome question. Hope that helped. The hazards tab. So Jonathan, I hope that helped answer your question on vacants. Hazards tab, it is part of an upgraded package, Ernest, for the Vision product. Your regional rep can reach out to you with specific information and costs on that. If you want to put in there as a response real quick, if you're still on, Ernest, just tell me the state that you're in and I'll make sure that your regional rep reaches out to you. Oh yeah, Chad, you're still there. Please be there. I'm going to bring that file in for you right now. So thank you for mentioning that. Here's the template for Pasco. I'm going to drag it into, got to close out the questions. This is a disadvantage of traveling and being on a single screen. Okay, handouts. Hold on one second. Got to open that up. I'm hoping it loads. You guys are great for sticking around and being patient here with me. Thank you. All right, that template's loading. You should have it now, Chad. Please confirm for me. In InspectER, Robert, you can upload up to 3 images per observation value for an inspection. You can upload files to the Files tab from InspectER only through an inspection itself, and that's 3 images per observation value. Can you have more than one inspection type for the home screen, i.e. reinspect and overdue? Ooh, Justin, help me what you mean there. Are you talking about the notifications on the welcome page? Just type in a response, let me know. Chad and John, great. Yep, the Pasco file loaded. It's good stuff there. You can see how they did it. It's just elegant. It's simple. We have, so Austin, so Justin, if you can further elaborate if that's what you meant on the welcome page. Austin, we have recreational fire permit form, perform inspections for this permit. So if I'm reading, I'm going to try and understand that you don't have to do a separate inspection to issue that permit, because you can create a permit form and answer all of the questions related to that permit within the permit itself. I hope I'm on the right track here. If I'm not, just kind of, oh, just a comment to a previous question. Okay, that's why it made sense to everybody else but me. Right on. Okay, good. Ernest is in California. Oh, that's Greg Anderson. Okay, Ernest, I'll get your contact information over to Greg about the Vision product. Mark, is there a way to make the inspector field a required field when doing an inspection? So if you say required, let me see if I am looking at the same thing that you would be looking at. Do you mean here on this page, the assigned inspector, or do you mean during an inspection here, which I believe it's required anyway? So yeah, it's required here. So let me know if you mean an inspection, it's already required, or if you meant back on the info page. And so Jay, you're interested in Vision. That's going to be Mark Holloman, and I'll make sure when I pull the report from the meeting, I'll get him your contact information from what you would use to register. So we'll both Ernest and Jay will get with you on that. Okay, Chad, we're good. Chad and John for the file, excellent. So will the Pasco example be part of the packet for download? So that's the only file I've uploaded for today's presentation. We do have more information on our website, but what I can do, which is no problem, and you guys tell me if you want this, the assets we give, and when I say assets, we're talking documents and templates and best practice, I can share that folder with you guys. It's a Dropbox folder. I can share it with you, and you can just grab the files and kind of explore to your heart's content as if you had attended an RTA and got those documents at an RTA. And we share those outside the RTA also, but we just bundled them in a folder. So if you'd like that, I can do that. I'll make a note here. If I don't make notes, I forget things. Share RTA assets. All right. And Justin's saying the dashboard. So the dashboard, yeah, I know what he's talking about. I know exactly what he's talking about because I run into this too. What Justin's saying is right here under my notifications. He wants a multi-picker. This is a feature request, and one I've heard and may already have been written, but what he's asking for is under inspections, he wants to be able to have, and let me try, yeah, more than one inspection type. So here, it can only pick one. What he's asking for is a multi-picker that I need to be able to see on my notifications on the welcome page, annual, assembly, and burning, for example, instead of just one. So right now, the answer is we don't have it. The good news is that through our feature request, it is something the product owner that is responsible for this could consider doing and having it as a multi-picker down the road. So great question. And I think we're at a wrap. Guys, thanks a lot for sticking around. Again, I know we ran a little long, but I think I've answered everybody's questions. I will share the Dropbox files with everybody. I think you'll find a lot of value, both existing customers and people considering us. You can kind of see our import templates and things like that. And I think it will be of value to you. So I'll get that out to you later today. Did I miss anything? Did I say something I was going to share that I didn't? Those of you still on, just type in as a question. Let me know if I missed anything. And we'll see you again, gosh, next week for our third session in the boot camp. I don't even know what the topic is. I got to go look. All right. Awesome, everybody. Have a great Thursday and a good upcoming weekend. And we will, thanks, Byron. I appreciate the kind words. We'll catch you again in the weeks ahead. And I'm glad you guys are finding this valuable. And keep in mind, if something I mentioned, you've got a better solution that you're using the system for, or you've got another idea, shoot me an email. It's super easy to remember, Tom, T-O-M, @emergencyreporting.com. And I'll be happy to share that with the participants of today's webinar. All right, take care, everybody.